Prince Harry on a mission to raise awareness about the deadly danger of landmines around the world, following in the path of his mother, Princess Diana, who championed the cause as well.
Prince Harry's visit to Angola was meant to be a heartfelt tribute to his mother's iconic 1997 mission, a nod to Princess Diana's compassion and courage. But instead of praise, it stirred a storm. As cameras rolled, Harry was seen crouching down, gently offering landmine safety tips to children in a village still scarred by the shadows of civil war. With a few rehearsed phrases in Portuguese and a hopeful smile, he slipped into what some called dad mode. But for critics, it all felt too staged, too self-serving. Veteran journalist Tom Bauer didn't hold back, blasting the trip on live television. "They're not your kids," he said sharply. "This is a wounded nation, not your personal redemption arc." What was meant to be a tribute ended up reopening old wounds.
Morning, Prince Harry's in Angola, retracing the footsteps of his mother from nearly 30 years ago. Now, guys, he's there solo without his wife, Meghan. He's working with the Halo Trust, an organization that works to clear landmines from around the world.
And Tom Bauer didn't have to raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words cut clean, calm, direct, and unmistakably bold. "They're not your kids." That one sentence dropped like a quiet thunderclap during a live panel, sliced through the glossy coverage of Prince Harry's visit to Angola. Just like that, the spotlight shifted. Suddenly, what seemed like a noble solo mission became something far more complex. The day before, Harry had been in a small Angolan village, joining a landmine safety lesson with local children kneeling beside them, repeating phrases like "stop, go back, and tell your elders." Translated into Portuguese, his voice echoing in a classroom where innocence met trauma. Cameras rolled. Children listened. But outside those frames, Bauer's words had already sparked the conversation many had long avoided about purpose, presence, and the fine line between advocacy and performance.
And guys, you remember those striking images of the princess in a flak jacket and helmet walking through a cleared path in a live minefield.
The setting was striking, the message polished. The media coverage? Tailored to perfection, every frame designed to paint a picture of humanitarian purpose. On the surface, it felt like a heartfelt tribute, a modern echo of the legacy left behind by his mother, Princess Diana, who once braved a live minefield in 1997 with nothing but courage and conviction. But something about this trip didn't land the same. The landscape looked familiar, yet the energy was off. Diana had walked into danger without a wall of PR teams or carefully staged optics. This felt orchestrated, and Tom Bauer, never one to flinch from uncomfortable truths, wasn't buying it. Known for his meticulous reporting and unfiltered critiques of the royals, Bauer saw through the choreography, and he wasn't afraid to say so.
Prince Harry has embarked on a surprise visit to Angola to continue his late mother, Princess Diana's efforts to eliminate landmines. Riley Sullivan is a lifestyle reporter here at skynews.com.au. He's always across the latest celebrity headlines. Riley, great to see you.
Great to be back.
Let's talk about
Harry's latest appearance wasn't about raising awareness, it was about crafting an image. It didn't come from a place of urgency or heartfelt need, it was shaped for the spotlight. And what it lacked more than anything was the authenticity that once made Diana's efforts so powerful to people around the world. "This isn't outreach," Bauer said bluntly during the broadcast. "It's a performance." It wasn't his first time calling Harry out, but this one hit differently. Because it wasn't just about this one visit. It was about a growing pattern. One that more and more people are beginning to see.
Angola to continue his mother's work eliminating landmines. What was on the itinerary during the trip?
Right, well, this was quite a surprise visit from Harry. As you said, he visited Angola earlier this week. He met with the president of Angola, and it was in relation to landmines. Of course, that was really one of the...
It's the chase for relevance through bold, camera-ready moments that often stir headlines more than they spark change. And as clips of Harry kneeling beside school children made their rounds online, the gap between image and impact became hard to ignore. The press releases stayed polished, but Tom Bauer asked the question out loud that others only whispered: who is this really for? These children already live with the daily reality of landmines.
The pursuit of
They've grown
relevance
up knowing
high
danger,
stakes.
lies just beneath their feet. Their communities have been practicing these drills long before any royal showed up.
She massively increased the profile of that issue when she went to Angola in 1997. And it's quite a haunting thing, you know, because she did all this amazing work for landmines, raising awareness of this issue, but she never really lived to see what she achieved, because when she went to Angola, that was in January 97.
The Halo Trust, the organization behind the visit, has been clearing landmines in the region for years, long before Harry ever stepped onto the scene with a film crew in tow. To many watching, the motive behind this trip seemed less rooted in charity and more like a calculated move in a much bigger game of damage control. Prince Harry isn't just navigating tabloid headlines anymore. The issues run deeper now. Allegations surrounding mishandled funds linked to the Invictus Games, rising skepticism from governments and donors, and a growing distance not just from the royal family, but from the trust he once carried with the public.
Later. So I think for Harry, this is a very important cause. It is probably a direct line really to his mother's legacy, and he's always sort of kept up this link to Angola. He last went there in 2019. As we can see in some footage, he recreated those iconic scenes of Diana walking through the minefield.
And now, even former allies both in the UK and across the US are starting to step back. The timing of Harry's Angola visit, just days after it was revealed the Angolan government had turned down his $15 million private funding request, didn't feel random. It felt like damage control. And Tom Bauer, well-versed in the subtle mechanics of royal PR, didn't overlook the connection. In his view, this wasn't just a humanitarian visit, it was an attempt to regain moral footing, to steer the conversation away from money troubles and back toward safer ground: children, legacy, Diana. But the problem, Bauer argued, was that the foundation of this strategy was shaky from the start.
That has sort of maintained a place in his duties since leaving the royal family. I think it was a really wonderful visit, and really a sign that, you know, when he's there, when he's really focusing on the issues and really important philanthropic causes, he is still effective.
You can't fake sincerity. Bauer made that clear. It either comes from a real place or it doesn't, and in Harry's case, it just doesn't. As the broadcast rolled on, Bauer didn't hold back. He painted a sharp contrast between Diana's quiet, fearless humanitarian work and what he saw as Harry's staged reenactments. Diana walked into danger without a script. Harry walks onto curated photo ops. Her actions sparked real, lasting change policy shifts that saved lives. His? They generate headlines, but not the same kind of impact.
Join Harry for the visit to Angola. Do we know why she didn't want to join?
Yeah, there was an insider that said that Meghan chose not to go because of personal safety concerns. This is the same sort of reason that has been given in the past for why she refuses to return to the UK. But I've never really believed that. You know, I think that there have been...
Bauer pointed out a hard truth: Harry's appearances tend to vanish from public memory as soon as the next big headline comes along. And beneath the glossy visuals, there were real-world consequences to his visit. Field reports revealed that entire communities had to hit pause on their daily operations just to make room for the event. Scheduled demining work was put on hold, roads were shut down, school timetables were shuffled. Halo staff were pulled from critical tasks just to manage the logistics. And while such disruptions aren't unusual for high-profile guests, they highlight the deeper issue. When the spotlight arrives, the mission often gets pushed to the side.
So, you know, certainly she doesn't, she's not afraid to travel outside of California, but it seems kind of like a selective thing where maybe when it's not something that she's interested in, or maybe it doesn't align with what she's doing, you know, she probably, you know, kind of pulls the security.
Is the mission being lifted up or pushed aside? That was the question at the heart of Bauer's critique. And in the hours after his interview aired, it struck a chord. Viewers echoed a growing weariness, a feeling that noble causes are being repurposed as backdrops for personal branding, that moments carefully choreographed for the cameras are being mistaken for real impact. Meanwhile, the true work, the slow, gritty, often invisible kind that actually drives change, gets overshadowed by the glare of celebrity. For those in the humanitarian world, this isn't new. It's the familiar pattern of celebrity aid where attention is abundant, but follow-through often isn't.
But I do think that she probably, she has every right not to be as interested. She, I think, is prioritizing other things. She's trying to build a business. She's selling wines and jams. And I think that, for Harry, he's a little bit more focused on the philanthropy.
Yes, I think Meghan's focused.
It's a dynamic that's been around for years, celebrity advocacy with mixed results. But Harry's situation is different. As a royal-turned-humanitarian, still carrying the weight of a globally recognized name, the spotlight on him burns. Brighter, every gesture is amplified, every word picked apart. And in that kind of pressure cooker, even small missteps can feel like major failures, especially in a place like Angola, nation still healing from the scars of a nearly 30-year civil war. Here, the margin for error isn't just small, it's non-existent. The stakes are simply too high.
Closer to a possible truce with the royal family, as after Harry and Meghan's team was seen meeting with one of the King's aides. What's the latest possible reconciliation? Could we see Prince William even being involved?
Yeah, we saw those photos over the weekend.
Minds still maim and kill. Families live haunted by the fear that a forgotten patch of land could shatter everything. Children are taught from the moment they walk how to sidestep death. And in a place like this, a visit that shines more on the visitor than the people can't help but feel out of touch, yes. Harry's defenders say his presence brings awareness, and to a degree, it does. His global name pushes headlines where silence might otherwise fall, but awareness without real action is an empty promise. Especially when behind the scenes, questions keep growing about where the money goes, how the plans are implemented, and whether the promises made in his name are truly being honored. And that's the center of Bauer's argument, accountability. Because even though Harry stepped back from royal duties, he still carries the perks of that legacy, the name, the access, the global stage, which means his reach is unmatched. But so is his responsibility, and now more than ever, people are beginning to ask whether he's actually meeting it. Not just critics or journalists, but the very communities he claims to support. And then there's the contradiction of transparency, because for someone who left the royal world promising a more open life, Harry's dealings still feel veiled. Financial structures rarely explained in full, foundation reports delayed, media questions dodged, public statements carefully worded to say just enough but never too much, and it's that tension between a proclaimed openness and a guarded reality that's becoming hard to ignore. And for Bauer, that's where the real problem lies, because as he said, you can't ask for public trust while keeping the public in the dark. And complicating all of this is the unresolved issue of the Queen's will, still unreleased 2 years after her passing, with official sources pointing to legal procedures, but speculation circling around hidden decisions about titles, inheritance, and roles. And for Harry, that uncertainty creates a long, looming shadow over everything he does. Without clear footing, every appearance takes on dual meaning. Is he a private man, a global advocate, or a royal in quiet exile? And that blurred identity makes trips like Angola hard to define and easy to doubt. Because when the rules are fuzzy, they're easier to bend and harder to enforce, which is why Bauer believes Harry wants the influence of a prince without the accountability that comes with it. Wants to speak for victims but not always stand beside them. Wants to build a legacy without putting in the quiet, thankless years it takes to make one, and these aren't bitter attacks, they're observations. Echoed now by people who once believed in his departure from royal life, who hoped for a fresh start grounded in honest work, but instead have watched a pattern emerge of branded causes, polished appearances, and selective openness. And while none of this downplays the urgency of landmine work in Angola or suggests Harry's intentions are hollow, it does raise the hard truth that good intentions without follow-through don't change lives, appearances without structure don't build trust, and the real danger isn't that people stop caring, it's that they stop believing. Because when every new cause is met with a sigh and every speech is filtered through doubt, that trust, once lost, becomes nearly impossible to get back. And as the segment closed, Bauer offered one last thought, not as a journalist, but as someone paying attention. If Harry truly wants to help, he said, then stay longer, speak less, Listen deeply, work quietly, and prove that this isn't about him. Because right now, far too much of it still is.